waterfront was hit very hard, and continues. Fairfield, as all of our communities in the state, continue to suffer as a result of wires down, trees down, and in Fairfield, waterfront damage. So I wanted to get here. I've been to Bridgeport earlier today, and getting here, I'm going to get down to Stanford a little bit later. So you're all stuck with me. The eastern part of the state, shorefront communities, got Nancy today. I'll be in the eastern part of the state, kind of the middle communities, some of those extremely hard hit with lots of roads still unpassable. I'll get a further update on a conference call at 1:15 later today on that. And we will, in Hartford, be doing a briefing later today, and you'll all get notice on that, but I'll be doing a briefing later in the afternoon. UI has reported as of 10 a.m. 48% of Fairfield was still without power. Quite frankly, that puts it pretty much right in the statewide average. I think we were about 44% as of 10 a.m. without power. Lots of trees, 200 trees and wires down, still needing to be cleared. But I want to say to the local officials, thank you for your preparations, thank you for your evacuations, thank you for using our benchmarks, which I heard we did use, the 92 storm. You know, as a guy who lives in Fairfield County, I remember that as the storm that would be helpful to people down here to measure, and truth be told, it ended up being
right on the money.
Right on the money. So, and as a result, we saw a number of communities go into declaring their mandatory evacuation plans, using that. Actually, what we told communities is prepare for 92 swell plus a foot, and it seemed to have been a good benchmark. With that, I'm sure. Oh, actually, I want to thank the congressman for joining me here today. We had representatives of congressional and Senate delegation on the phone in a number of our briefings. I also see Senator McKinney here. Was happy to have had him as part of the leadership on a conference call, Republican and Democrat leadership going over our preparations, as well as the declaration that I had made earlier in the day. That day, I felt obligated certainly to keep leadership aware of it. For that, happy to take a few questions. One second. I'll take a few questions. Then we're going to go out to the beach because I want to see the damage, and I don't have a lot of time because I've got to get down to Stanford. So we'll take a few.
Governor, what are you guys doing in the state to try to get more manpower here to help utilities with cables and electricity?
Doing everything I can. Spoke with the secretary, the assistant secretary of Energy Department yesterday, Patricia Hoffman, urged her and the secretary to reach out to utility companies around the country and encourage them to send folks to our part of the country. You know, it gets a little bureaucratic. They want to know who we have pre-set agreements with. Well, this is of a magnitude that it's not about who you have pre-set agreements with. It's all hands on deck. Northeast Utilities has actually flown people in from Washington State. Now I'm not making any excuses for the utility companies. That's not my job. But I do remind everyone to look at the scope of this thing, from North Carolina through Quebec. Obviously, there were states in that were less hard hit, so we're hoping to pick up some assistance later today or tomorrow from Massachusetts and New Hampshire, who were not as hard hit. But these utilities, and I've made it very clear to them, and they've made it very clear to me that money is not the object. They'll take whatever help they can and pay whatever the contract rates are with those utilities. Anybody else? No? So you took my warning? Great.
One, two. Will they be?
That's gone. That's down.
Can they lose their property, or do they get a right to
they get
in place? Obviously, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. Obviously, a lot higher.
And then you can see we lost power. There's another house down at the end. The cul-de-sac ends. It's only walking capability to do whatever way down that. We lost power here.
Walk down?
Yeah.
I'm still. This is high tide, but this is higher than usual tide.
Well, yeah, still.
Yeah.
got an air conditioner.
See the difference? The seasonal high tide, we just got full
Right,
months,
yeah.
and the tides are still higher than normal.
Yeah.
It's funny, as a realtor, I remember renting some.
Yeah, just careful of the power. People walking around. Hey, how are you?
Thanks for sticking around and take care of things.
That's what you gotta do. There's a 14 years of training as mayor, you know?
Okay.
Yeah.
We appreciate any help.
We're trying to marshal all the people. How long you been here?
It's been in the family. One of my sons rebuilt it about 10 years ago. And I must say he did a hell of a job because the waves were coming right over that house and smashed it here. It stayed.
Wow.
They
Amazing.
just relaxed the fence and knocked it off. And we lost the boat on the way
How are you
The
back?
boat is up on the top of the rocks across the creek. So it's been
Your boat that's over there. All right.
not all right.
Well, at least you can find it.
Yeah, that's right.
I use the 92 storm as the storm for everyone to use as a benchmark. And I lost the boat now. Really? Yeah.
Well, the boat is high and dry. That's the high tide and the surge that pushed it about 3 feet.
So there's no real damage?
The bottom is not right.
Yeah.
But it's a
Yeah, all that. It's solid. Home.
yeah.
It'll be all right.
Thanks for your concern.
Sure, sure. You take care.
Take care. Yeah, doing a good job.
He is doing a good job.
Coming in front.
Yes.
Oh, this is a tumble, yes.
Hi, House and Creek, 2154, cover on the post.
It's hard to believe we had a hurricane.
Would you just kind of push this up?
Yeah, they just pushed this out of the road.
Got oil in it right here.
There's the boat, just on another side.
Oh, right there. Oh,
He's fine.
This is what we get.
Okay, I was gonna say, that name looks familiar.
and was this always a creek, or was it a now? Was it must have been dredged at some point. Yeah. Right.
That's part of the title base.
Right. Sure.
You can see the high tide water.
Exactly.
But this whole area.
Yeah.
They came through, they were reaching the top part of the second story of that house.
Second story of that house.
That's, and that's the one that lost the deck and everything in front, so that it's totally open right now.
Yeah.
Rayfield on our,
Yeah. Yeah.
but totally open on that side. And you can see on this side where they've got the bedroom,
Yeah.
that hole and that, and water was flowing right through the
Right through it. Yeah.
They ship you in on a box?
Load up on the.
When we see this, we ask them.
Well, you know, you have to give Mother Nature some credit. She's pretty powerful. And I'm just grateful, you know, here in Fairfield, the first selectman did a great job in heeding our calls. I was on Friday or Saturday, we started using for planning purposes the 92 perfect storm heights. And I think in some senses that allowed a whole bunch of communities to then kind of crystallize, get their maps out and figure out, well, how high did the water get in 92? We then told them to plan a foot above that. And I think it was a pretty good planning tool. And then of course to have, you know, leaders get out in front of this thing and deliver the same consistent message that we were delivering in Hartford was important. You know, obviously, my heart goes out to all the people. I mean, you got people here who've had total losses and partial losses, and a lady who can't get down to her place because of the wire. Look at this, you know, wires over here. So you know, it's devastating, and I certainly understand it's devastating. And then you know, I got just getting updates. We got 40% of our state still without a power right now, and you know we've made some progress on road openings. I don't have the current number, but we're down from 1,000 roads which is where we were around 6 o'clock last night that were impassable. Now, a fraction of those was as a result of floodwaters. The rest is just trees and wire combinations. You know, we can't move the trees until the utility companies show up and make sure that the wires are safe. And then people say, well, why is that so important if they're, you know, if power's out? So many people have generators that kick back into the system. So, you know, it's dangerous not, even if they, you know, throw the switches at the power company that would normally dictate that there's no power left in the lines. People, particularly people who haven't installed their own generators properly, kick back directly into that system. So somebody could be walking around assuming it's turned off and then get electrocuted. So, and we know historically that one of the great dangers of these types of incidents is the number of people who get killed after the main force. So we're still in we are in a response mode. I think we've gotten out of you know, just handling the storm itself, and now we're trying to respond and recover. I guess we're getting some water deliveries down here and in other parts of the state, as well as food deliveries in parts of the state that are cut off. And you know, I just wanted to see this part of the state personally. Got one more stop down in Stamford, and then it'll be back up to Hartford. And we'll do a news briefing sometime. I don't know whether they've gotten the details out, sometime between 5 and 6 after I've been updated. I'll be on a call with all of my commissioners in affected areas, as well as all of the emergency preparedness folks at 1:15. And then going to check a little damage in my own house and see how my brothers and nieces did who had flooding, and then back up to Hartford.
Governor, can you talk about the situation with the rivers?
You know, flying over, I got to tell you, one of the most interesting things was this flyover I did yesterday, and I had heard about some flooding out in Simsbury, and you know, original forecast had the Farmington River having crested already, and then of course with all of additional rain further up, we didn't actually crest until sometime last night. And it was remarkable to see how much land was underwater. Same thing on the Connecticut River, and I got to get updated cresting information on that. But the amount of vegetation, fields, agricultural fields underwater was really quite remarkable. So it continues to be real dangerous.
Can I just ask the first selectman a quick question?
Sure.
I know, thanks, David. How about stability of these homes? I guess the big question is, how many of these homes can be saved at this point?
We've got 3 that are condemned. They're going to have to be totally rebuilt. We've got another 20 that we've categorized as unsafe. That may be because they have these homes out here on gas, on electric, on water. So maybe the gas line is unconnected. Obviously, you have issues with power, as you can see from the power lines being down at this case. So that's part of the process. And given the limited geography out here, limited landmass, it's going to take a while to get contractors out here, get our building inspectors out here to get that all scoped out. Our home inspectors, our building inspectors from the town were out here immediately after the storm checking on this. So they've been doing yeoman's job. You think of police and fire, you don't always think of our building inspectors being out here doing that. So I compliment our building department on being on the job, and all the emergency crew of being away from their families at this time, spending time in our command center taking care of our citizens, and by necessity leaving their families alone. And we don't always think of it in that respect.
Governor, will you continue these tours in towns in communities?
Yeah, well, as I said, the lieutenant governor is out in the eastern shore towns, hitting 3 or 4 of those with Joe Courtney, the congressman, out there. And I'm going to hit communities in the eastern portion of the state, kind of mid-state. A lot of those towns really devastated with tree and line outages. And I'm not sure what the lieutenant governor's schedule is for tomorrow, but yeah, we'll continue this for a few days and get first-hand experience. Yeah.
The first cut on the value of the financial losses, does that come in through insurers to the insurance department, or how is that data gathered?
You know, I'm watching the numbers, get danced around. I don't have a definitive answer for you on that. I can tell you that we don't have any numbers we trust at the moment. I think a lot of this is estimates where insurance companies or folks who are familiar with that data kind of balance what that data tells them about other storms and what they generated. I got to tell you, up in Bridgeport, out at Seaside, we're talking about 3,000 pound pieces of rock being tossed about, and major slabs of concrete being lifted. So the numbers that I heard as of yesterday sound awful short to me. So, but we'll see what happens. What I have asked is all of the town officials to get us preliminaries and not to wait. The preliminaries can be updated on a daily basis as far as I'm concerned, but what we're trying to do is get as much data ready now that we can use with the federal government so that they can understand the scope of these difficulties here.
Given the damage you've seen, and this came ashore as a tropical storm, I mean, what's the lesson, what's the message for the state if the next time there's a hurricane warning?
Well, there's not a whole lot of difference between a tropical storm and a Category 1 hurricane. That's number one. So now we happen to have lucked out in this part of the state where we didn't get the winds that the eastern part of the state did. But when you realize we hit 92 numbers with respect to flooding without sustained 60, even 60 mile an hour winds sustained. It really is quite remarkable. If we had more wind coming down the sound, forcing more water down here, we're not talking about 3 houses being condemned. You're talking about the whole point being condemned. I mean, that's really, so to put it in perspective, because it was a tropical storm and the fall off in winds in this part of the state was a little bit quicker, we're only talking about 3 homes being destroyed. Sustained 60 or 70 mile an hour winds forcing more water down here, we would be standing in a cleared field.
Governor, we have
Okay, great.
Pull down the
We are working with the utilities to help them identify additional resources. The mere scope of this storm from North Carolina through Quebec and the number of outages is just tremendous, and it is straining utilities across the region's ability to respond. Having said that, we're working to identify additional resources. I mean, energy is going to be the big issue, and it's going to be the big issue for the next 7 days. That's a reality. There is a priority list. Municipal officials help load that priority list. We got a lot of kids we got to get to schools. We did get all the hospitals connected. We're working with all the nursing homes, working with now sewage treatment facilities and pump stations that are running out of fuel. All of these things there are priorities set. Utility companies are working against those priorities as well as to get as many people connected as possible.
And you earlier compared this. You said this was worse in your mind than before in terms of
not in my mind. Numbers. We know how many people lost power. If I remember correctly, and if you have to correct me. But I think it was about 485,000 in Gloria. We got 800,000 at the height of this storm. I mean, and within a short period of time, we were still running numbers 60-70% greater than Gloria.
How about the scope of the damage besides the power outage?
I have to tell you, I wasn't a mayor or a governor at Gloria, so I wasn't surveying damage quite the way I am now. Had a little bit more familiarity in the '92 storm. This is quite awesome. Taking that helicopter flight and really just examining the shore between, for the most part, Stratford and Branford. The amount of damage done to homes and infrastructure was quite tremendous. Obviously, when you see houses destroyed, that's very dynamic and very moving, but the amount of financial losses just on deductibles for insurance, house insurance, is going to be a tremendous amount of money. And because real estate's so expensive in Connecticut, those deductibles are going to hurt a lot of people. You talk about a 5% or 2% deductible for some of this damage. That's a lot of money for the value of some of these places. Okay? Thanks.
Thanks, Governor.
I got to get on a phone with her. Thank you. Hey, listen, great job.
Governor, thank you very much.
You're doing a wonderful job, Congressman. I'll see you down Stratford. Okay, very good. See you.
Okay, yeah, I'm Nancy Donegan from Bridgeport
Hi,
News and a whole bunch of papers, newspapers. But in Trumbull and Monroe, there are still a lot of downed wires. I mean, there are actual live wires that are down. There are trees that are laying against wires.
Yeah.
When is that going to be repaired? Because that's a really dangerous situation.
Yeah, and there's communities like Reading, for example, that are almost
Reading,
100% out, and they have, they've had no assets deployed from CL&P. As the governor said, this is a massive wipeout. I mean, 800,000 people. The priority, and I'm no more in the business of defending or explaining CL&P and UI than he is, but their priority, of course, is hospitals that are about to go down because their generators are running out of fuel, first responder communication systems. My sense is that they're beyond that, and we're starting to see the numbers of people without power go down in most communities. Time will tell. 2 weeks from now, we'll look back on this and be able to judge whether the utility companies really operated with efficiency. Preliminarily and anecdotally, my sense is that they're getting assets in as fast as they can. The one anecdotal complaint I have right now is that I'm hearing from an awful lot of chief executives in towns, Stamford, Fairfield, Weston, where there's just not adequate enough communication to those chief executives, right?
Water went straight through.
We're going our building, department, and our fire marshal.
Which condemned is it?
Well, this one's condemned. The one over there on the left is condemned, which you can see at the top of the foundation. And I believe one of them on the right is also.
Okay, I mean, you've been here through a number of hurricanes. How did this?
Yeah, the governor said he wanted to.
The wind, everything was right, full moon, high tide. I'll see you guys later. Down here. When the power outage.
I need electricity. I'm the same.
But really, truly, there's a lot of people you can't call.
We had a grill party yesterday. We grilled everything. Come on over.
Make the best of
it. That's right. We've been reading and talking. We've been talking a lot in our house.
Go figure.
We're arguing.
An opportunity to get
We're
back
not
together
on the
again.
computer.
On a state conference call Friday, it was his example of like, okay guys, it's the 1992 flood levels plus about another foot or so. That gave us a visual impression. Having been a mayor and understanding what we need, we don't just need a number of saying it's 12 feet or 13 feet or 14 feet, we need a visual. He gave us that. That was our mantra. Hey guys, it's 1992 plus a foot. We use that. So anybody who'd been around for that time, our town officials, our our building inspectors, understand what that means. So we were able to map out exactly to the street level what that meant because we went back to 92 and we hit it.
Yeah.
Now what
this was the October 92 storm?
So what happened now is that in going through that, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it gave us from a planning perspective what we know what to do, from a prep perspective, we were able to define our evacuation zone Friday afternoon. So we had that in place. And then the water moved right up to that so that even the citizens, okay, if we told you it's going to flood up to your house, you know it, then it happens, there's less panic.
I'm just amazingly proud of the town of Fairfield, of the public works crew that are on my street right now. They've been working nonstop since this morning with all the down trees and branches. I can't be more thrilled that there wasn't as much damage as we thought there might have been through the storm, but the town really did a great job in the emergency preparation side and a great job in the aftermath.
Problems down the other end that we must repair, but all in all, it held up really well. So,
cool.
hats off to the architecture.
There you go.